Welcome. Welcome to another Wednesday Yachting Luncheon. It's beautiful to be here in our grill room at the St. Francis Yacht Club, looking out at the water and everything that goes on out there, appropriate for our talk today. Right off the bat, let's introduce our new Vice Commodore, Billy Dana. Come on up, Bill. Welcome, buddy.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Another beautiful day, Wednesday Yachting Luncheon. Lots of stuff going on around here as usual. Reported last week that the three-bridge fiasco was going to be Saturday. It was Saturday, and it was a fiasco as it lives up to its name. 300 and some odd boats. We went around left. We should have gone right. We did not finish, but we had a good time. I think 40 boats out of 300 and some odd fleet. 42. Yeah. Did you?
No, I didn't finish either. We went left almost all the way.
I didn't see you the whole time going left. So anyway, we finished tied.
Exactly. Good on you. Good on you. We both got second.
Yeah. In that race, first means something, and everyone else is tied for last. So, in any case, that was fun. This Sunday, Super Bowl. So you heard it here first. $24 buffet. It's always a great, fun place to watch the Super Bowl. For $24, we're going to be serving Chef Aaron's specials, McGlinchey wings, Bosa's Mafia ribs, Shanahan's spinach dip, Kittle down the middle subs, hot dogs with most start, Jimmy G sliders, and the list goes on. So no lack of creativity from the galley. So everyone have fun. We'll see you here Sunday, hopefully.
Perfect. Thanks, Billy. Good on you, mate. Good going. A little bit about future speakers. So the National Park Service has a new superintendent. You want to come by in June because David Brole will be here to talk all about what it's like to be superintendent of the National Park Service, and including aquatic park and about Clutha and all those nautical attractions. And then in May we'll have Steve Tashia. He'll be here on May 20th to talk about the America's Cup, the oldest game in sport. He is the chairman of the America's Cup Hall of Fame. Very, very knowledgeable, thoughtful person. And then on May 13th, Jack Griffin, who is the editor of Cup Experience, he'll be here to talk all about, how fast are the new AC 75s and who he thinks is going to win the Cup. And then in April, lots of people are thinking that you want to have very low carbon footprint boats that do the ecology work in the ocean. And so Moss Landing Marine Center is doing the same thing. So they basically recently commissioned a catch, like the Derek Bayless in Monterey, to work for them, designed by our own local Tom Wiley. And so Brian Ackerman, who's the executive director of the Moss Landing Marine Labs, will be up to talk all about what they're learning in Moss Landing and what they're doing to basically diminish the damage we sailors and powerboat people are doing to the ocean. Also in March, Chuck Adams, who wrote a book all about, the builders of the Golden Gate Bridge, firsthand accounts of the people who built the incredible Golden Gate Bridge. So he'll be here. You've been looking at the Clipper Around the World race, and this is a race where you can buy yourself crew positions on a given leg of it. And so we'll have the director of recruitment and a crew member, Will Stokely, will be here to talk all about joining the Around the World race. So you can basically bail from work, say you're taking a 2-week vacation, and get on an Around the World boat. Earlier in March, on the 4th, Mikhail Venikoff will be here. Mikhail was the #1 Army Ranger in the world. And he also founded Ranger Road, which is for disabled vets who lost an arm, a leg, an eye, or combinations thereof, and who want to be doing challenging experiences. We've taken him sailing on Youngster a bunch. Clearly, that's a challenging experience. And they're now beginning Ranger Road sailing, I'm happy to say. And so he'll be here to talk all about that. We'll also have the head of the Coast Guard for the Bay Area for Port of San Francisco and Northern California, Maria Bird, here in the end of February. And then former Navy captain and distinguished lawyer, author, and diplomat. He's going to be here on February 19th to talk all about the daring and historic Jimmy Doolittle raids. John Kirshner will be here earlier in February to talk about the promises of sailing around the world as a paid business. He takes people on legs of his around the world trip. And next week on February the 5th, we are going to have a special Wednesday Yachting Luncheon birthday party for our own 50-year-old champion sailor and renowned artist Jimmy the Man DeWitt, who will be turning 90. So we'll have a birthday cake and come by for lots of fun, a birthday party, and a presentation that has put together, a great presentation, very beautiful presentation, in fact. And now a little bit about Jimmy does get a free lunch, and so will Sally. Two people, the speaker and one other person, get a free lunch when you are speaking at the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon. So Indian chief, fire chief, a doctor, lawyer, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, if you want to change the world, you pick a job that you think is going to have some influence in moving that arc of history. And clearly, we are on an ecological bent here at the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon. We believe it's as valuable to make sure the water we sail on is healthy as it is to sail on the water. And so another kind of comrade in arms doing this is the executive director of the 17th Annual International Film Festival, a job she's held back when it was the 7th annual. For 10 years, Anna has been doing this. And so you don't really need to say very much introducing the executive director of the annual International Ocean Film Festival. We should just say, good on you, Anna. Welcome to the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon. Thank you.
Thank you. That's probably the best intro I've ever had. So I'm one of those people who's very, very fortunate. I love my job, and for me, it's not necessarily working. I couldn't be more proud of what I do and the joy that I have and the fun that I have in doing so. I essentially get to bring people together. People who care about the ocean, people who want to give back to their community, and I've had the good fortune of meeting people from all over the world who want to make a difference, who want to share stories and have an impact on making the world and the ocean a better place. Forgive me if I talk too much, but I do get passionate about what I'm doing. But I think in this case, what I'd rather do is let the trailers that I brought from the film festival do the speaking for me. So what I'm going to do is give you an overview of the festival, a little history, a little bit about our programs, and then I'm going to show you some trailers that have had impact in the past, and then I'll show you some trailers for the upcoming film festival in March. So before I forget, I did put some postcards down for you. They're on your table. It takes place March 12th to 15th at Fort Mason, which is right here. We also have two other theaters. One is the Smith Raphael in San Rafael, and also the Roxy Theater down in the Mission. So actually 3 total venues. And ticket sales go live next Wednesday, February 5th. So I'd like to get started with someone who inspires all of us. This is Dr. Sylvia Earle. Has anybody had a chance to hear her speak? She's fantastic. She is, we call her the goddess of the ocean. Her deepness was how the New York Times referred to her. And I met her, I don't know, maybe when I first started doing this. And she is one of the most inspiring people. And she can tell you so much about the ocean. She just turned 83. And the photo on your right is her accepting our award. We named her our Ocean Champion in November 2019, which is when we do our annual fundraising event. She was also on the cover of Time magazines as one of the first women in her field. She was the first female scientist at the National Oceanic and Administration, NOAA. And when I first met her, I had not become a scuba diver. And of course, she's done hours and hours and hours upon scuba diving all over the world. And I said, Sylvia, I haven't been scuba diving yet. And her only response to me was, what are you waiting for? And so with that, I went and I got certified. I've been diving since. And lucky me, I was diving over the holidays in Kona, and I actually had an encounter with 3 tiger sharks, which was fascinating. And they look just like they look in the films. They look a little bit heavier in the film than they do in real life. And they moved so swiftly, and I didn't want them to go away, but they were magnificent. So Sylvia is an inspiration to us all. If you do have a chance to meet her, please do, or any opportunity that you have to hear her speak is phenomenal. So we got started at the Dolphin Club, actually. There was a gentleman there by the name of Chris Jake, and him and his group of individuals decided that we needed to do a film about the ocean. And the Dolphin Club swimmers are those crazy people that swim in the bay with no wetsuit. It's one of the oldest swimming and rowing clubs in the country. And so they're the ones who decided that we needed to start the film festival. And that's how we all came together. Now we get to have our wrap party at the Dolphin Club, which is on Sunday at 6 o'clock. And it's a culmination of the entire weekend with filmmakers and visiting individuals, and truly a lot of fun. So we keep it within our history, and it's a fantastic place to visit. One thing I like to point out is kind of who we are. So we are a niche film festival, and when you start looking at the ocean and you start thinking about film and visual storytelling, there are so many subject matters about the ocean, both above the waterline and below the waterline. It's endless and it's fascinating. You could learn about coral reefs, you can learn about ocean acidification. We have programs that celebrate how we recreate with the ocean. Surfing is one of our most popular nights at the film festival. It's always Friday night, it always sells out. Every Saturday we have a program on sharks. People love sharks. People are fascinated with sharks. I have a wonderful colleague, David McGuire, who spoke here, I think, in the last year or so. And he just has a passion for protecting sharks, and he educates us more than anything. So our goal is to not only entertain people, but also to educate them, and also to engage people to take action. And just to put us in perspective, I always like to point this out. The San Francisco International Film Festival is 56 years old. The Mill Valley Film Festival is 42 years old. So we're a mere 17, but we're big and we're powerful, and we have a very strong message about protecting our oceans for future generations. We got our beginning with a film that it touched the hearts of everyone. This is Luis Sahoyo's, and this is The Cove. And The Cove was a groundbreaking film about the dolphins in Taiji, Japan, that were being taken out and put into aquariums and places like SeaWorld. And Louis, who actually lives here locally in Sausalito, he's become a good friend of mine, put the festival on the map, literally. In 2009, he was nominated for an Oscar in in March of 2009. So the Oscars were presented in March, and we premiered this film in February. So we kind of launched his career with The Cove, and he helped to put us on the map. So a fantastic individual, a fantastic film if you haven't seen it already. It's raised awareness around the world about the dolphins and the situation in Taiji. Unfortunately for me, I have an incredible group of volunteers that help put the film festival together. As a small nonprofit, we have over 40 volunteers who are working on the festival as we speak. And they pretty much come on in July, and they're working real jobs. And during the festival itself, we have about 100 volunteers who come and help us. So they are passionate, they are committed, they are talented. And I still have volunteers from the Dolphin Club that have been volunteering since we started the film festival, and it is amazing. They keep us going. They are our lifeline. They are our energy, and they are some of the funnest people I've ever had an opportunity to work with. So couldn't do it without them. Essentially, our tagline, our tagline for us is saving our oceans one film at a time. And every year we show 4 days of films, 3 venues. We get over 4,000 people, which is a lot of people. And we have something for people of all ages. We show about 40 to 50 films that are curated from over 200 submissions every year. We get at least 25 visiting filmmakers. And so there's something for everyone. It's an opportunity to learn more, to see more about what's happening around the world when it comes to the ocean. So a lot of people ask me what are my film criteria. And this is a fairly long list, but what we've come up with is obviously it has to be an ocean-themed documentary. We show PSAs, short films, long full-length films. None of the films are more than 2 years old. And they can touch upon marine wildlife, conservation efforts, climate change, ocean recreation, and of course we've had a number of films on sailing as well. There's not a subject I think that we haven't shown about the ocean or an individual who's making an impact in the ocean. And now that there's so much conversation about climate change, we're seeing a lot more films coming in about climate change, the impact the ocean has on climate, and vice versa. And the quality of the films is incredible, as well as the technology that's used, and just the storytelling has gotten so much better and has changed so much over time. 2 programs that we started that I always like to highlight. I started the student film competition and think they're in their 9th year. But this is an opportunity for kids around the world to tell their story about the ocean. These are kids that are Bay Area middle school, high school kids. We give them cash incentive prizes, and we get kids from all over the world who submit. We've had kids from Singapore, Turkey, we've had them in Japan, and they've actually shown up to see their films on the big screen. But it's motivational, it's inspiring, and their stories are compelling, and they're very concerned about what's happening with our oceans, and they're ready to take it over and do something about it. In 2012, we started a traveling program where we take the films overseas. We have a great partnership in Kiel, Germany. I don't know if you know, but Kiel is the latest, newest sister city with San Francisco. Mayor Mark Farrell was, his mother was from Kiel, Germany. So she started that partnership. We're now on our 3rd year of showing films with Kiel, Germany. And most recently, we were in South Korea, in Busan, and have started a program with them as well. So here we get to some of the trailers that I wanted to share with you. This first one is about straws and is about plastic straws. Each of the trailers is about 2 or 3 minutes long. This came out a couple years ago, and it's all about plastic straws. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the issue of plastic straws and how damaging they can be to the environment, but this is a film that went around the world and is now shown in classrooms.
So why do you think someone invented straws? What do you think this straw is trying to solve? What problem?
I guess just the problem of having to lift the cup to your face. I don't really know.
The history of straws. Officially, straws debuted in ancient Mesopotamia. where Sumerians guzzled beer through straws of gold. In the 1950s, the rise of the automobile brought with it fast food and the desire for disposable dinnerware. Straws were officially a hit. Cheaper and easier to mass produce, plastic straws were soon everywhere. Crazy straws, magic straws, Slurpee straws, and giant straws to go with America's jumbo thirst.
I was at a beachside bar, and I ordered a glass of water. And as I was sitting there looking out at the Monterey Bay Marine Sanctuary, the glass of water came with a plastic straw in it, which I did not ask for. And that was kind of that was it. That was my last straw, my last plastic straw. It really had nothing against straws. It's just the material it's made out of. Like, to me, it's a design flaw.
Plastic's a miracle product. I'm not saying all plastic is bad, but with any resource, we have to use it wisely.
It's a new substance. It's not from the earth in the way other things are from the earth. This plastic is functioning as a kind of imposter for food for lots of creatures.
He bit on it and he said it's plastic. Is it a straw? Don't tell me it's a freaking straw.
And I was just thinking, man, yeah, I can show the world of what just one straw does to wildlife.
I think all of us can start to put pressure on this issue. There is plastic where it doesn't belong. There's too much of it.
So that's why I created the No Straw Challenge, so people would go out and ask restaurants to stop serving straws. Like, I can't do this all by myself. I need help.
Billions of them are buried in landfills and litter our planet every year, winding up in oceans. No longer a harmless small item, straws are a giant menace.
And feel free to clap too. Don't worry about it. Otherwise, there's this dead silence in the room, and I'm sure the filmmaker is appreciating it somewhere around the world. I'm going to run through these because I really want to share all of them with you. The next one is called Sand Wars, and this is one of my favorite films because it opened up so many people's eyes as to the amount of sand that's being mined out of the ocean for the purposes of construction. And as much sand as we have, it's actually a finite resource that can never be replaced. And this was a special film because we showed it down in Monterey at the Monterey Institute of International Studies. There is a sand mining operation in the city of Marina, the only coastal sand mining operation in the United States. We teamed up with Surfrider and other nonprofits and showed it to the community, to a sold out auditorium. And the issue was they wanted to try to shut down that sand mining operation. They were bringing in over 200 to 300,000 cubic yards of sand per year, which is about 30,000 dump trucks per year, taking it out of the sand, selling it, using it for construction. The film showed various times. I think we showed it like at least 5 times here in the Bay Area because most people aren't aware of this issue. As a result, over the years, the California Coastal Commission finally got CEMEX to cease its operations. So they were given about a 2-year period to shut down. And so as I last looked at the information, they're on schedule to be shut down fairly quickly. And this was a film that helped to inspire that. Well, maybe we don't have that one. Shoot. Okay. Okay. There's always a technical difficulty somewhere. Oh. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Maybe we can come back to it and see if we can find it. This is a film. Let me just make sure this one's here, Ron. Otherwise, okay. Looks like it should be. Should be. We could switch to my computer if you wanted to. Yeah, or my computer. Sorry about that. We can come back to Sand Wars and we can come back to Ain't No Fish. In the meantime, while Ron's getting my hard drive out, this is our film that we're going to be showcasing on opening night, which is Thursday, March 12th. And I'm showing this because I think it would be a really fun film for people to see. What I like about this film is Mike Degree was an underwater photographer, extremely passionate for what he does. I won't give the story away, but just knowing him and understanding how much passion he had for the ocean, for protecting it, it's inspiring. You walk away and you think, oh my God, I really want to do something. He was an amazing individual. So let's play that trailer.
All right, Mike, can you give me an audio check?
Copy that.
Relatively comfortable in there, over?
Absolutely. Everything's go?
He was a different little boy. He really was.
In the immortal words of Buzz Lightyear, to infinity and beyond.
He quit being scared. I don't know how he exactly looked fear in the eye, but he did.
I'm Mike Degree, and I've been lucky enough to swim with and film sharks like this for 30 years.
The problems of getting those sort of shots depended on people like Mike. And of course, there weren't many people like Mike.
He was mostly an explorer because he liked to come back with the stories. It's something that nobody had ever seen before.
Mike liked the deep because it literally was a final frontier opportunity.
To me, it's one of the great mysteries of the sea, why we have so neglected the ocean. Imagine if you just knew about the skin of our own bodies.
When I heard on April 20th that an oil rig had exploded in the Gulf of Mexico, it got my attention.
It is nearly a mile deep and more than 20 miles long.
This injury to the Gulf, where he grew up, he took personally, and he wanted to do something about it. This was a problem that needed solution.
This was the footage I couldn't stop watching in the edit room.
To the insane amounts of money.
Because Mike had so obviously become a different guy.
There was a moment I felt it's just not worth it. The risk is not worth it. It's not worth it to the families to get that phone call.
I couldn't even believe that what you were about to tell me was even, possible.
Love that one. Yeah, sure. You never want a technical difficulty when you run a film festival. No. So they're, yeah. They're on my computer, so. Okay, that's fine. Okay, so we're going to move along, and this next trailer is from a film called WYL Wisdom. And in the festival, and just in life in general, there's people who just adore the marine life, whales being obviously one of those. And this year we have a whole program of about 5 or 6 films that are dedicated to whales. The subject matter varies. This is a film, and I'll let it speak for itself, but Rick Rosenthal is the filmmaker, and he will be here in conversation. And it just opens your eyes into the intelligence that that whales have. It's also very pertinent to what's been happening with us here in the Bay Area and all of the issues around whale entanglement. Whale entanglement is a very serious issue where nets get thrown overboard by fishermen. They don't go away. They're primarily made of plastics, and they entangle all kinds of species, turtles and all kinds of fishes. So whale entanglement is a big issue. We have another film on that. And it's a good opportunity to learn more about what is happening in our community and how to protect the whales. This is WYL Wisdom. Didn't mean for that to happen. There we go.
We can barely imagine a whale's life, let alone what's in their mind. One man is ready to try. It's a journey into the deepest thinking. He'll find intelligence, and capacity for emotion. There's ingenuity, risk, and reward. We see tenderness and curiosity. Whales have loving families, rivalries, and music. There are clues into the whale mind, if we're lucky enough to know where to look. The truth is, we've only just touched the surface.
My next trailer is about a campaign that we're going to be focused on during the film festival. This is a brand new campaign that has come out, and a lot of people are following it, and it's called 30 by 30. And it was started by the UK government, and the whole purpose is to protect 30% of our oceans by 2030. This is a very well done trailer. Just got permission to use it yesterday, and we're probably going to show it in front of all 15 programs throughout the film festival. It's very well done, and it speaks to marine protected areas, which is what our speaker last week was talking about, Lance Morgan at Marine Conservation Institute, and how important MPAs are to protecting what lies below the water and making sure that we have resources for future generations.
We call it Earth, and yet 9/10 of the space for life lies in the ocean. This great expanse provides half the oxygen we breathe, it regulates the planet's climate, and feeds billions of people. Without a healthy ocean, there would be no life as we know it. However, human activities and climate change have put it under pressure. The ocean has taken care of us for generations, but we need to take much better care of it into the future. From mangroves to coral reefs, from the polar regions to the open ocean, we must create marine protected areas. These special places safeguard biodiversity and sustain ecosystems. They help absorb carbon and provide livelihoods for millions of coastal communities. But above all, they give us hope for the future. In 2010, world leaders agreed to protect 1/10 of the ocean. We now know that this is not enough. To give the ocean and humanity a chance, we must look after the whole ocean. And we need to reach at least 30% protection within the next decade. Now is the time for action, to come together and to scale up effective protection for the future of us all.
So we're very excited about this trailer, and if you know, it was narrated by Sting, and he happens to be in San Francisco during the film festival, so we're reaching out to him and have him join us on stage. He's a big advocate for the ocean. So I think now my time is up, and Ron and I are going to do our Q&A, and perhaps we can try the other two trailers afterwards, Ron? Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that.
Welcome, Anna Blanco, Executive Director of the International Ocean Film Festival. So, Anna, what a fun thing to have you come and speak to the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon about. Tell us, how do you measure success? How do you personally measure success of the festival and your own success?
Very good question. Thank you. I think for me personally, I'll start with that, is having created more programs within the film festival. I've met so many amazing filmmakers, and they put their heart and soul into what they do. What I learned really quickly is that some filmmakers will get a commission to go off and do a film about the ocean. They have that experience, and then they go off and do something else. Then I meet other filmmakers who are only dedicated to the ocean, and they become very specific, but their films are very well done, very informative, very beautiful. I mean, underwater photography, underwater filmmaking is a real skill. So to be able to have more opportunities for more people to have more experiences during the film festival is amazing. But we've also become more of a year-round organization. So we not only hold the film festival, and I tend to speak about it because it is our anchor event, but we do films throughout the year. So for example, we do partnerships with organizations. In fact, we showed films during the America's Cup. When the America's Cup was here, we were down on the Marina Green with Tom Amon, and that was a lot of fun. We also have a partnership in Tiburon with the Estuary and Ocean Science Center, if you're familiar with that. And that is the marine biology portion of San Francisco State University. So they use our films to tell the Tiburon and the Marin community what's happening with the ocean. And in fact, I will put a little plug in there. They have a screening next Wednesday. The filmmaker will be there in attendance. He's from Vancouver. And the film is called Call of the Baby Beluga. And it's a fantastic film about belugas, which are hard to film. So they have some very unique footage, overhead footage, and it's about a baby beluga that is abandoned or gets separated by its mother and how it survives. So to be able to increase the breadth of people who see the films is, I think, a measure of success for the film festival. And the traveling program is another way in which we do that. So increasing programs, for me, personal success is growing the organization. I have a lot of people who come every year. I have a lot of people who come to me and they say, I will never forget that film that I saw about sand. It changed my life, and I told all my friends about it. So we get a lot of individuals who have been coming for years, and to see that kind of response is remarkable.
What do tickets cost at the festival? And remind everybody of the dates.
So the dates are March 12th to 15th. Individual tickets are $20. We have an all-access pass, which is $250 and gets you into everything.
Which is how many total films?
It's about 55, I think, is where we are now. And we have special discounts for children and senior citizens. We have special prices for all day Saturday and all day Sunday as well.
Which film festivals do you admire?
Good question. I would say, well, Sundance, I think, because it's Sundance, and we've been affectionately called the Sundance of the ocean. But I had a chance to meet Robert Redford at one point and talked about films. He's been doing it for a long time, and he just understands the value of doing storytelling. And as a niche film festival that only talks about the ocean, we're the first ones in the world to do so. There is no other real film festival right now that does films about the ocean. So, but Sundance would be the one I admire the most.
How big is your paid staff, and how many volunteers do you engage annually?
I have about 2.5 paid staff people. Volunteers, like I said earlier, about 40 working on it right now. And then during the film festival, about 100, 110 or so.
Do you have a metric of volunteer hours that you recruit?
No, I don't, but I probably should. It's a very big number.
Average volunteer puts in how much energy, do you think?
When they're in the planning committee, like they've been working, I would say maybe 80 to 100 hours over a 6-month period. So
now you show films, short films, feature-length film. What's the average length of a film that you show? And give us a breakdown.
We track those numbers in terms of where the majority of the film total running times lie. And it's typically in the 20 to 30-minute range. So when you do a film program, you want to have an anchor film that is at least 50, 60 minutes. And then you can add in 3 or 4 of the shorter ones. You can add in some really short ones. So at a film festival, when you go to a film program, you want to be able to see a variety of films. You don't just want to go and see one long anchor film. So each program has about 3 or 4 films with an anchor film of about 50 minutes.
PSAs, how often do you show PSAs? And what's happening with PSAs? Are they still growing? Has cable knocked away PSAs?
I think there's still a market for PSAs. What I think is the bigger two other questions about PSAs is I think there's so much more on social media now. So I think social medias might have taken over PSAs. Instagram, Facebook, you could tell a story and, with a couple of images on Instagram. And for a lot of nonprofit organizations, that's their PSA. One of my favorite PSAs was when I very first started, was done by a group called WYL. And they had a PSA with Yao Ming. Does anybody remember Yao Ming? He was the super tall basketball player. Exactly. He did a PSA, and he was in a restaurant that was surrounded by windows that had fish and sharks swimming around. And their message, their tagline is simply, "When the buying stops, the killing stops." So it's Yao Ming, he's at this restaurant, he's served shark fin soup, and he just gently pushes it away and says, "When the buying stops, killing stops." So one of our all-time favorite PSAs.
So Jim Schwartz, the executive producer and funder of your SEAL film that won, The Cove, that won an Oscar. He's won 3 Oscars. He showed his films here, as was a Yachting Luncheon speaker like yourself. He said the competition now for festivals is intense. So how many meetings do you go to in a year to listen to somebody's pitch about a film? And then I'm going to keep asking questions as they occur to my mind, but if you have one, please hold your hand up. And of all the great guys to help with the mic, our staff Commodore, Paul Haneke, will pass out the mic. So cue up your questions, wave to Paul. Okay, so pitches, how many do you see a year?
Well, we get filmmakers who come and say, "I want to show my film in your film festival." And we also have an automated system where they just submit, and it's open year round, and they just keep continuing to submit. What you're finding, though, is timing of films and timings of film festivals. There's a couple films. What's happening now in the marketplace is these great films are made, and they want to go straight to a Netflix or an Amazon to recoup their cost. So a lot of them will bypass the film festival circuit. You see that a lot. Some films go on the film festival circuit to gain momentum, to raise awareness, to get increase. And for a lot of filmmakers, that's their way of then going to a Netflix or an Amazon to get their film on a streaming service. But it's interesting because filmmakers, if it's a really good film, will hold on to their film. They won't do it on the festival circuit. They wait to submit to Sundance, which is happening right now as we speak. And they're looking for distributors, people to pay for the film and then distribute it. If they don't get a good offer, then they tend to hang on to it, and then they come back to the film festivals. And we're actually really helpful in helping to promote a film, tell people about a film. So it's a changing marketplace. It's very interesting.
Kim, you have a question from the audience.
If you were to, when people donate, where are you looking to put the money, and how do you use money that you're raising?
So when people donate, we typically focus on our education program. This year we have over 1,500 Bay Area middle school and high school kids coming to the theater for free. And if you have kids or you've dealt with the system, you know that busing and transportation is probably the hardest thing. So we're paying for about 20 buses to get the kids to come to the festival for free. And that's where we have a lot of impact, is with the kids. So mostly in our education program, our student film competition, and staffing, really, more than anything.
If you have a question, wave your hand, and Paul Heineck will bring you the mic. So talk about the selection process. How big is the selection jury? And how do they, do you have selection meetings, jury meetings?
So I am very fortunate. I have a volunteer jury of about 10 people. We open up our call for submissions starting in July 1st, and we close in December 15th. We meet every 2 weeks. We watch the films. We argue about the films. We put on our boxing gloves and say this one really has to be in the film. And we also kind of try to validate whatever the film might be saying. We've had films that will list facts about what's happening with the ocean or certain marine animals, so we validate that as well. So it's a pretty intense process. It's a lot of fun. It's a very unified team of individuals who understand ocean issues.
Yes, Paul Heineck has a question. Paul.
Well, Kim and I are wondering, outside the medical terminology, what is a PSA?
Public service announcement.
Good
Public
question.
service announcement.
Thank you.
They used to be all over the radio and television years ago, but with on demand, that is changing. So that's the question that's another related question. So how is on demand viewing, Netflix, watch it when you want to watch it, how is that affecting film festivals?
So Netflix is probably the one people talk about the most, and they are scooping up content faster than anybody. And they're looking for content. So a lot of times they're just going directly to the film festival or to the filmmaker. So
in that case, the on-demand market is beginning to bypass or causing filmmakers to bypass festivals. That's one effect? Okay.
That's one effect. It depends on the filmmaker. It depends on the quality of the film. It depends on the purpose of the film. We actually had an incident a couple years ago, actually, where we had a great film about a surfing organization that down in LA, and they were using surfing as a means for helping veterans with PTSD. It was a great film. Get these people out on a surfboard. They connect with the water. It calms them down. And it really showed the effects of how the ocean can help us all. And so we screened it, and the producer called me. We selected it. I take that back. The producer calls me up and he said, Anna, Tribeca wants to show it in New York City. They want it to be a world premiere. And, I said, no. I said, this is our film. You submitted it to us. I said, we won't call it a world premiere, but we're definitely showing it. And he called me back about an hour later and he said, okay, Tribeca's going to make it a New York premiere. So they got to do theirs. Yeah, that was good.
Good for you.
I've done it. I've had to do it several times. But then I went to Tribeca and I saw the film and met the producer and we had a great time. It was perfect. About 3 months later, he calls me up and he says, well, Netflix wants to show it. And I said, well, congratulations. He said, they ended up changing it a little bit and changing it enough so that they could call it a Netflix original. And so then it got onto Netflix. And so, but it's a lot of how things happen in the film business.
So you weren't able to wangle an interview with Bob De Niro to get this worked out, huh?
No.
Festival to festival. So how many distributors come to your festival? And questions, hold up your hand, Bob. Paul will bring the mic.
I think every year it varies how many come, but we get an average about 5 to 10, and they're all shapes and sizes. I mean, there are large distribution companies, but what we've also seen is there is a new market for a smaller distributor who will help a filmmaker out and be the person to share the film, send it out, make copies, etc., for a small price. So some of these films will never make it to Sony or Panasonic or some of the larger, Miramax, Searchlight, etc. But they do have distribution companies that are the middleman who are helping filmmakers distribute the film so that they can then go off and make their next project.
What do you think the average budget, or what's the average budget of a film submitted or that's shown at the festival?
That varies a lot. I looked at one yesterday and it said it costs $500 to produce, which I'm not surprised. I think it was a 2-minute film. And then I've seen as high as 50, 60, 70,000, a couple $1 million projects in there. So it just varies. It runs the gamut, really.
What percent of the films that you show get theatric distribution?
It depends, more now than ever before. And again, it goes back to the quality of the films. There's a couple of films like Sea of Shadows. I don't know if anybody saw Sea of Shadows. It's now with Amazon. So again, a lot of them bypass even the theater and they go straight to streaming.
So now we get to do the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon every week, 50 weeks a year. It takes a little energy, but only because of the thoughtful volunteer effort of John Bechtel, stand up John in the other room in there. He's a full-on volunteer. And Eric Roach, one of our little paid guy once a week, comes along. Bob Sky helps us with the sound. Jennifer Lammers helps with items, but nobody helps more than the vice chairman of the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon, Kathy Trafton. Who has the question? Kathy?
Yay, Kathy.
So I have a question for you, Anna. It's amazing to me how quickly these trailers draw a person in. I have 100 questions just based on the trailers. The one that struck me was the daredevil man who loved life, the photographer. You spoke of him in the past tense, and so did the film. He's no longer with us. What happened?
He was an amazing underwater photographer. I don't want to give too much of it away, but in essence, he was working with James Cameron when James Cameron was ready to go down to the Marianas Trench. And he got on a helicopter to go and film from above, and the helicopter crashed.
Wow.
So but in the film, his wife ends up making the film because she's a filmmaker herself, and she felt that his story needed to be told. His passion for the ocean needed to be told. So a lot of the footage is from them when they first met, from when they started dating. There's also a part where he actually gets bitten by a shark, and he lives to tell about it, and he laughs about it. He was that in love and enamored with what he was doing. So she does a beautiful, beautiful job with the film. I had the pleasure of meeting her in Jackson Wild, which is another film festival. She lives in Santa Barbara, and she premiered it at the Santa Barbara International Film Festival, which is a very large film festival, and people just stand up and applaud. They can't help themselves. There is, she just does it so well, and she's a very nice, sweet woman, and they have 2 kids, and the 2 kids are in the film as well. So. Yeah, good question. Thank you.
So how is equipment over the 10 years that you've been doing the festival, how is equipment of the filmmakers changing, morphing, evolving?
That's a very interesting question because there are a couple of films that are now in 4K and 8K, so they become more sophisticated in the technology.
Explain to the audience.
It's just a higher resolution. And what happens, and there's a very good film, it's called Watson, and it's about Paul Watson. Does everyone kind of have an idea of who Paul Watson is? He started Greenpeace, and he is now the head of Sea Shepherds. Fantastic film. It's on Animal Nature, actually, so it's already on TV. But the film is so well done, but the requirement for us to show it is that it has to have an 8K technology capacity.
8K?
8K. It's highly technical. And most theaters don't offer a 8K unless it's a commercial theater like a Landmark Theater, for example. So the more sophisticated they get, the more limiting they get in terms of who can screen them and where.
So you're saying the more sophisticated production equipment reduces the number they can distribute into, they can present it to. Okay.
Exactly.
So where are people using, iPhones? How often is somebody making a film submitted to you with an iPhone?
We've had, I would say in the last year or two, we've had maybe 2 or 3 films submitted on an iPhone.
2 or 3 out of?
Not very, out of the 200 submissions that we get.
1%,
Very few,
okay.
yeah. For the kids,
No, like 10 to 1%, okay.
for the kids, it's a great option because we get films from the kids that have been done on an iPhone, and it's pretty obvious. On the other hand, though, the kids are very sophisticated with their films. The student film competition screens the top 15 finalists in middle school and high school. We just picked those last week. It's all done on a criteria scoring basis. And that is a film that's free to attend, and it's Sunday morning at 10 a.m. at Fort Mason. And you will be amazed and blown away by the messages that these kids have for protecting our oceans.
So that was the next question. How is the age of filmmakers submitting films modifying? Is this better sophisticated equipment available to kids, meaning you're seeing more films from young people these days? More, yes or no?
Probably seeing more from younger kids, and in terms of the 20 to 30-year-olds that are submitting to the main film festival. But it's the people who have a passion for making films continue to make them regardless of technology, regardless of age, and it's quite remarkable. We get a lot of filmmakers who resubmit. They've submitted before, and 3 or 4 years later, they come back with a different subject matter and a different film. So that's a lot of fun as well.
So now we have, just to be clear, anybody who is interested in the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon can come to the St. Francis Yacht Club, stop at the front desk, use their credit card to become a guest for the day. And we have great attendance from local yacht clubs, including Richmond Yacht Club. So our welcome, friendly, let's hear it for Richmond Yacht Club. Who also now has a question?
Yes, Susan Hubbard from Richmond Yacht Club. Thank you for your passion and your drive, your overarching objectives, and thank you for involving the kids.
Oh, thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Ron, if I could add 2 more things. There's 2 other more elements to the film festival that I didn't really speak to. One is what we call our Ocean Heroes. And that is a group of about 30 nonprofits that come on Saturday and Sunday, and they they're there to showcase what they do for the ocean. So amazing group of people.
Yes, Grace Knight has a question. Grace.
Well, a long time ago when I was young, we'd go to the movie theater and there would be a movie short. We don't have movie shorts anymore. Why can't you give us a movie short right before the main showing so we have attention and hit them with your film, a film?
That's a good, I actually do have a trailer for the film festival. I chose not to show it today, but it kind of highlights all the different types of films that we show. The one that I showed, 30 by 30, that's going to be a film trailer that's going to be presented before every single program because of its messaging and because of marine protected areas need to happen more frequently and across the world. So between our trailer that tells people who we are and the 30 by 30, those are our opening films.
The movie theater, like whatever movie theater we go to.
Mm-hmm. We do get requests from other theaters that say we want to promote what you're doing, and so we will give our trailer to them and they will screen it. So the Smith Raphael does that, the Roxy Theater does that as well.
So what % are animated that you show?
You know, and I really hope we can try to show one of the trailers. There's a trailer that I was going to show that is animated, and it's a crowd favorite. It's been a crowd favorite for years. It's claymation, actually, which is a version of animation. It's called Ain't No Fish, and the tune of Hoagie Carmichael accompanies
Great,
it.
great.
So it varies. Every year it varies. Every year we might get a lot of films on plastic pollution, and then the next year we won't get any. It just varies. So same with animation. I think this year we probably had 4 submissions for animation films. Years past, we've had as many as 10 or 12. They're a little bit harder to make. Ron, you also was served as an MC last year when we showed an animated film called The Blues Crab.
It was a great film.
Harry
Great
Rubenstein.
film.
Yeah.
Terrific.
And a fairly long one, too.
And I really enjoyed interviewing the filmmaker. One of the great treats of going to film festivals is your access to the filmmakers and getting to listen to their techniques, their underlying philosophies, and their kind of strategies to make great, cool movies. So what's the hardest part of your job?
How long do we have? No.
2 minutes.
Obviously fundraising. Fundraising is critical when you're a small nonprofit.
How much do you have to raise a year?
Almost $500,000, which I know doesn't sound like a lot of money, but fundraising is challenging, but it's not the hardest part. I think the hardest part might be managing time and managing volunteers. It's just when everyone's not under the same roof, it gets a little challenging, but we've been able to do it pretty well, actually, over the last couple of years. So.
Easiest part of your job?
Doing this and enrolling people in what we do. Encouraging them to take part in the ocean and to be a part of it. That's the easiest part, because I think everybody has an inherent desire to learn more about the ocean. Everybody wants to do something. So we are simply conveying a message on how to go about doing that.
Thank you very much for speaking at the Wednesday Yachting Luncheon live from the St. Francis Yacht Club. Anna Blanco, Executive Director of the International Ocean Film Festival. So fun to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And with that, the meeting's adjourned. Great. And we're going to show, the meeting's adjourned, but we're going to show a couple films.